What if everything you thought you knew about family life was just the beginning? Imagine being able to stay at home with your kids, watching them grow every day while still earning a steady $2,000 each month. Sounds impossible. Today, we're uncovering the secrets of one stay-at-home mom who turned her daily routine into a life-changing opportunity. How did she do it? And can you really achieve the same? If you're curious about balancing parenting and financial freedom, don't miss a single second. Her story might just inspire you to start your own journey today.
Part 1. The Quiet Hustle. The alarm on Bella's phone vibrated against the nightstand. At 5:30 a.m., a silent personal summons in a house that was still deep in slumber. She slipped out from under the warm duvet, careful not to wake Mark, whose steady breathing filled the quiet dark of their bedroom. The floorboards were cold against her bare feet as she tiptoed down the stairs, a familiar ghost in her own home. The air was thick with the scent of yesterday's stale coffee from the pot. She'd forgotten to empty the faint sweetness of laundry detergent from the mountain of clean clothes piled on a dining chair waiting to be folded. In the pale moonlight, filtering through the kitchen window, she could see the silhouette of the dishwasher, its clean light glowing like a small green accusation. This was her time, the unseen shift. Methodically, she moved through the morning rituals that no one ever witnessed. She emptied the dishwasher, the clinking of plates and silverware, a soft, solitary rhythm. She prepared Liam's lunch for school, a sandwich, with the crusts cut off a handful of carrots, a small container of apple slices she'd soaked in lemon water to keep from browning. She set out breakfast bowls and spoons, laid out clothes for both children, a superhero t-shirt and jeans for Liam, a soft pink jumper and leggings for Chloe. Only when the domestic stage was perfectly set did she allow herself a cup of coffee, standing by the counter and sipping it while the sky outside softened from black to a deep bruised purple. At 7:00 a.m., the house exploded into life. "Mom, I can't find my red socks." "The lucky ones," Liam yelled from upstairs. A moment later, Chloe, teetering into the kitchen with her blanket trailing behind her, upended her sippy cup of milk, creating a white puddle that spread rapidly across the floor. Bella cleaned the spill with a practiced sigh, found the lucky red socks tucked under Liam's bed, and managed to spoon yogurt into Chloe's mouth without getting too much on the clean jumper. Mark descended into the loving chaos, already dressed for work, his briefcase in hand. He was a good man, a handsome man, with a kind smile that still made Bella's heart flutter. He kissed the top of Liam's head, tickled a giggling Chloe under her chin, and then turned to Bella, planting a quick, distracted kiss on her lips. "Have a great day, hon. Don't work too hard," he said, grabbing the coffee she had poured for him. He was out the door before the profound irony of his words could fully settle. She was already 2 hours into her workday, and he thought it hadn't even begun. After dropping a chattering Liam at school and finally coaxing a fussy Chloe down for her morning nap, Bella sank into a chair at the kitchen table. The quiet was a relief, but it was heavy. She opened the mail, a small stack of bills and junk mail. Tucked between a credit card offer and a local grocery flyer was an envelope from the pediatrician's office. She slid it open. An unexpected medical bill for a follow-up visit Chloe had needed last month. The amount stared up at her, $450. A wave of cold anxiety washed over her, tightening her chest. Their budget was already stretched thin. She picked up her phone and called Mark. He answered on the second ring, his voice professional and distant. "Hey, is everything okay?" "Hi, we just got a bill from Dr. Evans. It's for Chloe's visit. It's $450. He let out a long, weary sigh on the other end of the line. It was the sound of a man carrying the weight of the world, a sound that always made her feel small. "Okay," he said, his tone strained. "Okay, we'll make it work. Just Try to be a bit more careful with the grocery budget this month, all right? He didn't mean it to be condescending, she knew that. But it landed like a judgment, reducing her to a child being given an allowance, a manager of household funds who had failed a minor test. In that moment, the simmering resentment, the feeling of invisibility crystallized into a hard, sharp resolve. She would not feel this way again. She needed her own money, her own power. With Chloe finally blessedly asleep, Bella's true workday began. She didn't clean the breakfast dishes or fold the mountain of laundry. Instead, she walked to the basement door, opened it, and descended the wooden steps into the cool subterranean air. The basement was unfinished, a space of concrete floors and exposed support beams cluttered with holiday decorations and old furniture. But in one brightly lit corner, a secret world existed. It was her studio, her office, her sanctuary. She had built it herself piece by piece. A large pegboard hung on the wall, tools organized in a perfect gleaming display, fine-tipped paintbrushes, wood-carving knives, sanding blocks, and clamps. Below it, a long workbench held jars of custom-mixed acrylic paints in every conceivable shade, the softest blush pink, a deep forest green, a vibrant sky blue. A high-end drawing tablet sat next to a laptop, its screen glowing with the familiar orange and white of an Etsy seller dashboard. On shelves to the side were works in progress, a series of wooden animals for a custom mobile, a large circular nameplate for a baby named Oliver, its letters being painstakingly hand-painted in a whimsical font. This was not a space for simple crafts. It was a professional workshop. This was Maple Creek Wonders. She sat in her ergonomic chair, a splurge she'd allowed herself last month, and woke up her laptop. She had a new order to begin sketching this one from a client in Germany who wanted a set of stacking blocks painted with scenes from her child's favorite fairy tale. Bella lost herself in the work, the focused silence of the basement broken only by the scratch of her stylus on the tablet and the gentle hum of the dehumidifier. Her movements were confident and skilled, the muscle memory of 1,000 hours of practice. Here she wasn't just mom. She was an artist, a designer, an entrepreneur. Before starting on the physical woodwork, she clicked over to her business banking tab. The numbers on the screen glowed back at her, a silent testament to her secret hustle. Current balance, $247.32. A quiet, fierce smile touched her lips. This was hers. It wasn't Mark's salary or the family budget. It was money she had earned with her own 2 hands in the stolen hours of the day. It was the price of new tires for the car, the cost of Liam's summer camp, the buffer against an unexpected $450 medical bill. It was her pride, her accomplishment, her secret. The school pickup line was a unique ecosystem of suburban motherhood. And Bella always felt like an ill-equipped tourist. She waited by the gate, scrolling through her phone, when a cheerful voice cut through her thoughts. "Bella, that's a lovely new coat." It was Sarah Jenkins, a mother from Liam's class, who seemed to exist in a state of perpetual polish. Her hair was always perfectly blown out, her athleisure wear looked like it had been tailored, and her smile was wide and bright. Mark's architecture firm must be doing wonderfully. The comment was tossed off casually, but it felt like a probe, a tiny dart aimed at their finances. "Oh, this I got it on sale," Bella replied, forcing a smile of her own. It was true it had been on sale, but she had paid for it with her own money, a fact she couldn't share. Later that evening, the tension lingered. Mark came home, loosened his tie with a groan, and slumped onto the sofa. He was exhausted, his face etched with the stress of his own day. Bella, buzzing with the success of a new 5-star review on her shop, tried to share a piece of her world with him. "I got a really great order today." She began sitting on the ottoman in front of him. It's for a nursery set all the way from Australia. Oh, that's nice, honey. He said, his eyes glued to the screen of his phone as he scrolled through emails. He was half listening at best. It's great you have a little hobby to keep you busy. The word landed with the force of a physical blow. Hobby. A little thing to pass the time, like knitting or collecting stamps. It wasn't a hobby. It was a 40-hour-a-week job layered on top of her other 80-hour-a-week job. It was her passion, her ambition, the source of the nearly $2,200 sitting in her bank account. The chasm between her reality, the professional she was in the basement, and his perception of her, the wife with a cute pastime, had never felt so vast, so painful, so utterly lonely. Part 2. The Rising Stakes. The whispers started, as they always did in Maple Creek, over coffee. Sarah Jenkins sat with another PTA mom at the Daily Grind, the town's only decent coffee shop. It's not just the coat, Sarah said, leaning in conspiratorially after stirring her latte. Did you see the new stroller Bella has? It's one of those high-end ones. And their car, it's practically new. I just don't see how they manage it on one salary. Mark's a junior architect, you know, not a partner. It wasn't malicious, not really. It was simple small-town calculus, a community of people who knew just enough about each other's lives to notice when the numbers didn't seem to add up. The speculation rippled outward. At a neighborhood barbecue a few weeks later, a friendly neighbor clapped Mark on the back, a beer in his hand. "What's your secret, Mark?" he asked with a loud, jovial laugh. "Bella's driving a brand new car. You must have landed a big project." The car wasn't brand new. It was a reliable 3-year-old used SUV she had meticulously researched and bought with a significant down payment from her own earnings. But perception was reality in Maple Creek. Mark laughed it off, but the comment stuck. Later that night, as they were cleaning up the kitchen, he turned to her, a crease of worry between his brows. "Hey, were we a little reckless with that car purchase? Dave from next door seemed to think it was a new Lexus." A perfect opening. A chance to tell him. But she saw the weight on his shoulders, the pressure he felt as the sole provider, and the words caught in her throat. She couldn't add another worry to his plate or risk the fight that might come from revealing her secret account. "I got a fantastic deal." She lied, her voice bright and breezy. "The dealership was desperate to get rid of it. We were just lucky." The lie felt sour in her mouth. Her secret, once a source of pride, was now forcing her into active deception, building a wall between them, brick by brick. One Tuesday morning, an email landed in her inbox that made her heart stop cold. The sender was Colette Dubois, a name she recognized instantly. Colette was a major interior designer and parenting blogger based in Los Angeles, a tastemaker with over 1 million followers on Instagram. Her aesthetic was minimalist, chic, and hugely influential. The subject line read, "Collaboration Inquiry, Maple Creek Wonders." Bella's hands trembled as she opened it. Colette had discovered her shop on Etsy and was in love with her work. She was in the middle of designing her own child's nursery and wanted to feature Bella's products as the centerpiece of the reveal. She wanted to place a massive custom order, a large hand-painted wall mural of a whimsical forest scene, a custom mobile with woodland creatures to match, and a full set of personalized alphabet blocks. The budget she offered was staggering $3,000. But then came the catch. The deadline was incredibly, impossibly tight. She needed everything delivered to LA in just 3 weeks for the scheduled photo shoot. Bella read the email 3 times, her breath catching in her chest. This wasn't just an order. It was a catapult. an opportunity to be seen, to be recognized on a national scale. It could transform Maple Creek Wonders from a successful side hustle into a legitimate, recognized brand. It was the kind of break she had only dreamed of. But 3 weeks, it seemed impossible. It was the kind of work that should take 2 months minimum. To pull it off would require a miracle. The following days blurred into a montage of controlled chaos. Bella accepted the order, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Her life became a frantic juggling act. Sleep became a luxury she could no longer afford. She was in the basement painting by 4 a.m., the smell of wood primer mingling with the scent of her morning coffee. She worked through Chloe's naps, her fingers flying, her focus absolute. After the kids were in bed at 8 p.m., she would head back downstairs, often not emerging until 2 a.m., her eyes burning and her back aching. The house, once her pristine domain, began to show the strain. Laundry baskets overflowed. Dust bunnies gathered in the corners. Dinner became an uninspired rotation of frozen pizza chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. Her patience wore thin. Then Chloe got a cold. The toddler became miserable and extra clingy, refusing to nap unless Bella was holding her. Desperate not to lose a precious moment of work time, Bella found herself trying to paint the delicate feathers on a tiny wooden owl with one hand, while rocking her feverish, whimpering daughter with the other. The breaking point came late one night. She was applying the final coat of sealant to a large mural panel when she turned too quickly to grab a cloth. Her elbow caught the edge of the panel, sending it tipping off the workbench. It hit the concrete floor with a sickening crack, smudging a huge section of the intricate painting. It was a disaster. Staring at the ruined piece, the culmination of a dozen sleepless hours, Bella finally broke. A choked sob escaped her lips, and she sank to the floor, tears of pure, unadulterated exhaustion and frustration streaming down her face. Mark, hearing the noise, came down to the basement. He saw her on the floor, the damaged panel beside her, and his face filled with concern. He knelt and put his arm around her. "Hey, what happened?" he asked gently. She couldn't even speak, just pointed at the smudge. He looked at her, at the dark circles under her eyes, at the frantic energy she'd been radiating for a week. "Bella," he said, his voice soft and full of what he thought was helpfulness. "Maybe you should take a break from your art projects for a bit. You look exhausted." His words, meant to be kind, only twisted the knife. He didn't see a business in crisis. He saw a hobby that had gotten out of hand. He didn't understand the stakes at all, and she felt more alone than ever. On the verge of emailing Colette Dubois to cancel the order to admit defeat, Bella dragged the overflowing trash bin to the curb. Her face was a mask of raw stress. As she turned to go back inside, a voice called out, "That's a heavy burden for one person to carry." It was her next-door neighbor, Eleanor Vance. Eleanor was a widow in her late 60s, a woman who mostly kept to herself, tending her immaculate garden. But her eyes were sharp and perceptive. Seeing the look on Bella's face, she gestured toward her porch swing. "You look like you could use a cup of tea and a friendly ear." Something in Bella snapped. The need to confide in someone, anyone, was overwhelming. She followed Eleanor onto the porch, and as soon as a warm mug was placed in her hands, the dam broke. She confessed everything. That in the secret business she'd been running for a year, the thrilling terror of the huge order from Los Angeles, Mark's complete lack of understanding, the bone-deep exhaustion, the feeling that she was failing at everything. Eleanor listened without interruption, her expression patient and kind. When Bella finally fell silent, drained and empty, Eleanor didn't offer platitudes. Instead, she shared stories of her own life, As a commercial artist in the 1970s, navigating a fiercely male-dominated field where she was constantly told her work was just a cute little side project. "The first thing you must do," Eleanor said, her voice firm but gentle, "is delegate the non-essential. Your time is your most valuable asset. Order your groceries online. Hire a neighborhood teenager for 2 hours after school to play with the children so you can have uninterrupted focus." But most importantly, she leaned forward, her eyes locking with Bella's, "Stop calling it a hobby, even in your own head. This is your business. Your husband doesn't understand because you haven't presented it to him as what it is, a professional venture that requires investment time and respect." Eleanor's words were like a splash of cold, clean water. She wasn't just being kind. She was giving her a strategy. For the first time in months, Bella felt truly seen. She wasn't a stressed-out mom with a craft project. She was a business owner facing a challenge. Eleanor's validation was the fuel she desperately needed. She left the porch that day feeling empowered, her spine a little straighter, her resolve reignited. Part 3. The Unveiling following. Eleanor's advice. Bella had taken a crucial step. She hired a responsible high schooler, Emily, to come over for a few afternoons a week. To pay her, she needed cash. This meant she had to transfer a larger than usual sum from her business account into their joint checking account to withdraw from the ATM. It was a simple logistical necessity, but it was the one that would unravel everything. That night, Mark was in their small home office paying bills online. He wanted to check if the $450 medical bill had finally cleared their account. As he scanned the transaction history, a line item caught his eye. An incoming transfer for $1,500. The source was listed as MCW Enterprises. He frowned. He didn't recognize the name. His curiosity piqued. He clicked on it, revealing a history of similar, though smaller, transfers over the past year. What was MCW Enterprises? A quick search on their shared laptop brought up the bank's login page. He saw a saved username, Maple Creek Wonders, and guessing the password, a combination of their children's names and birth dates, he was in. He found himself looking at a business account statement. An account he never knew existed. He saw the current balance. He saw the recent deposit from a Dubois Designs LLC. He saw a year's worth of transactions of income and expenses. He saw thousands of dollars. The shock was immediate and profound, a physical jolt. It was followed by a wave of confusion, and then a deep, sharp sting of hurt. He printed the most recent statement, his hands shaking slightly. He waited until the kids were asleep, then found Bella in the living room, folding the perpetual mountain of laundry. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stood in the doorway and held out the piece of paper. "What is this, Bella?" he asked, his voice quiet and strained. "What is MCW Enterprises? Why is there thousands of dollars in an account I've never heard of?" The confrontation was not about the money. He wasn't angry that she had it. He was wounded by the secrecy. "Why?" he asked, his voice cracking with emotion. "Why couldn't you just tell me? Did you think I would forbid it? Do you see me as that kind of man?" Bella tried to explain, her words tumbling out, about feeling invisible, about the medical bill, about his hobby comment. But all he could hear was the echo of a year of secrets. He felt like a stranger in his own marriage, shut out from a huge part of his wife's life. "You lied to me," he said, the words hanging in the air between them. "About the car, about all of this. I thought we were a team." He turned and walked upstairs, leaving Bella standing alone amidst the laundry, the silence in the house more deafening than any argument. The next day, the house was thick with a tense, miserable silence. They moved around each other like ghosts, at the unresolved argument a palpable presence. Bella, emotionally raw and sleep-deprived, had to drag herself to a mandatory PTA fundraiser planning meeting at the elementary school library. She felt fragile, like a single touch would make her shatter. She sat through the discussion about bake sale logistics and silent auction items in a fog. During a lull in the proceedings, Sarah Jenkins stood up, a bright, false smile plastered on her face. She turned directly to Bella. On a lighter note, Sarah announced, her voice carrying across the quiet library. "Bella, we are all so curious. You are such an inspiration to all of us stay-at-home moms." The other parents, about 20 of them, turned in their seats to look at Bella. The spotlight was sudden and hot. "You have to share your secret. How are you managing to do it all and bring in extra income? Did you get into crypto? Is it one of those direct sales things?" It was a public ambush, perfectly framed as a compliment. It was the exact moment she had been dreading for a year, her carefully guarded secret about to be pried open in front of the entire community. Her cheeks flushed, and her heart began to hammer against her ribs. Bella's first instinct was to shrink, to stammer a vague, non-committal answer, to deflect and escape. The familiar anxiety rose in her throat, threatening to choke her. But then a flash of Eleanor's face appeared in her mind, her calm, firm voice echoing, "Stop calling it a hobby. This is your business." She thought of the sleepless nights, of the smudged mural, of the pride she felt when she finished a perfect piece. She thought of the $3,000 order from Colette Dubois, an order she was against all odds going to complete. She took a deep, steadying breath. She pushed her chair back slightly and stood up, her legs feeling unsteady beneath her. Her voice, when she spoke, trembled at first, but gained strength with every word. "There's no secret, Sarah." She said, her eyes meeting Sarah's with a directness that made the other woman falter. "Just a lot of work." A hush fell over the room. For the past year, Bella continued, her voice now clear and professional. "I've been running an online business out of my home. It's called Maple Creek Wonders." She paused, letting the name settle in the air. "I design and create custom hand-painted children's decor. I work before my kids wake up, during their naps, and after they go to bed. The extra income isn't from crypto. It's revenue from a business I built from scratch." She didn't share specific numbers or mention the fight with her husband. She simply stated the facts with the calm authority of a CEO delivering a report. The room was silent for a beat, the parents processing this new version of Bella Rossi. Then a dad in the back raised his hand. "What kind of paint do you use? Is it non-toxic?" Another mom chimed in, "Is your website on Etsy? I'd love to see it." The ambush had failed. In her attempt to expose Bella for some mysterious financial windfall, Sarah had inadvertently given her a platform. She was left standing speechless, her fake smile frozen on her face, as Bella's moment of dread transformed into a quiet, stunning triumph. Part 4. The New Equilibrium. When Bella got home, the kitchen light was on. Mark was sitting at the table waiting for her. He had heard what happened. Another dad at the meeting, a friend of his, had texted him. The anger from the night before was gone from his face, replaced by a complex mixture of awe, shame, and regret. He stood up as she walked in. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice thick with an emotion she hadn't heard from him in years. "I never saw it. I never saw you." For the first time, he didn't ask about her art projects. He asked, "Can you show me your studio? I want to see everything." It wasn't a request born of curiosity, but of a genuine desire to understand. She nodded, and led him down the stairs to the basement. She switched on the bright lights of her workspace. He stood in the middle of it, turning slowly, taking in the organized tools, the shelves of paint the professionals set up. It was like seeing a hidden room in a house he thought he knew completely. She showed him the LA order, now beautifully finished, repaired, and carefully packed in custom boxes. She opened her laptop and showed him her bookkeeping spreadsheet, her marketing plan, her correspondence with clients. He was blown away. He saw the hours, the skill, the business acumen. He saw not a hobby, but a thriving enterprise. This was the turning point, the moment their marriage pivoted. He stopped seeing himself as the sole provider and her as his dependent. He saw a partner. "How can I help?" he asked, and this time the question was real. "For real. I can handle your invoicing. I'm good with numbers. I can build you proper, sturdy shelves better than these. We're a team. Let's be a team." The ripple effect was almost immediate. Colette Dubois' blog feature on the nursery makeover went live, complete with stunning photographs of Bella's work. The post was shared thousands of times. The link to the Maple Creek Wonders Etsy shop was clicked so many times, it nearly crashed the site. Orders flooded in from all over the country. The talk of the town shifted. The whispers of suspicion were replaced by murmurs of respect. At school pickup, 2 other moms approached Bella not with prying questions, but with genuine requests for advice. One wanted to start selling her knitted blankets. Another had an idea for a meal prep service. Bella was no longer just a stay-at-home mom. She was a resource, a respected local entrepreneur. Even Sarah Jenkins found her by the swing sets one afternoon and offered a quiet, sincere apology, admitting with a shrug, "I think I was just jealous." Bella's identity in the community had been redrawn, painted in fuller, brighter colors. 1 month later, a new equilibrium had settled over the Rossi house. It wasn't a perfect, tranquil normal. It was a sustainable, dynamic one. The house was still messy at times, the kids were still a whirlwind of energy and demands, but the fundamental dynamic had changed. A large whiteboard hung on the fridge, a shared calendar that mapped out Mom's work blocks and Dad's work blocks in different colors. Mark could now be found in the basement on a Saturday morning, expertly packing boxes for shipping, while Bella was on a video call with a potential retail partner in Seattle. She had started looking at a small commercial space for rent in downtown Maple Creek, a place with a storefront window, daring to imagine an expansion beyond the basement. The final scene of her old life had been one of quiet desperation. The final scene of this new one was one of profound peace. One evening, Bella sat at her kitchen table, a warm cup of coffee in her hands, looking out the window at the backyard. Mark was pushing Chloe on the swing while Liam tried to show him a new soccer trick. The light was golden and soft. She was a mother. She was a wife. She was a business owner. She was not defined by any single role, but was the sum of all of them. And for the first time in a long time, she felt completely, unequivocally whole. The secret to earning over $2,000 a month hadn't been a trick or a gimmick. It had been the blueprint for building a life that was entirely her own right in the heart of her family.
Thank y'all so much for staying with me till the end. It truly means a lot. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Wishing you a gentle, peaceful day ahead.